Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing?
We're going to have a great day because there's a hint of echo in Mike's mic. Greg, your audio and video is off by like 0.8 seconds. So we're losing
Got a little delay.
Viewers faster than we can get them, but we're still going to have a good time. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Trainer Talk. We do this live approximately, once a month, sometimes twice a month. The goal is to get a couple trainers in a room and talk about some issues that'll help management, that'll help individual contributors. That'll help everybody just, perform their jobs in the workplace just a little bit better. As you know, the three of us work in local government, so we may come at it from a government point of view. But again, we also welcome all of your comments, all of your thoughts. If you're watching on LinkedIn, feel free to comment and put in there in LinkedIn where you're watching from. And if you have any questions for us in this next 30 minutes or so, we'll be happy to answer those. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and put your comments, put your likes, forward this to people you think that might find it interesting as we get our day. Hey, there was Kim, as we get our day started. So our topic today, as you see, gentlemen, in the bottom is managing workplace conflict is everybody's role. So, gentlemen, as we enter the post-pandemic, or what we hope will be the post-pandemic era, we've got a lot of possible conflict going on. We have possible people working remotely, people coming back. We've got people that are maybe not working. So they're people who are there are feeling the burn of overtime. Morale may be down. People may be snapping at each other. Right. Greg, we'll start with you. What are you seeing and hearing around conflict in the workplace? Is it the same as it was pre-pandemic? A little bit worse? A little bit better? What are your thoughts, Greg?
I think it's a little bit worse. I think there's so many different layers to it that's happening. One of the things that I noticed the other day, I saw a post that someone was asking, where are the retention bonuses for people who have been staying, during the conflict. You have all of these incentives for people to start and come in, and we're hiring. And so now you've got some conflict and just disagreements with the people that have been steady, that have been performers who have maintained during the pandemic. So, you're always going to have some kind of conflict, but I think it's layers and it's beginning to get worse. And if managers don't get ahead of the game, they're going to have some issues.
Yep. Yeah. Great point. Michael, what are your thoughts on what's happening right now?
I see a lot of what Greg's seeing, but when we just talk about the people that are coming back to the office, you're going to have some that are coming back, some that are having some privileges that are staying remote, and people are going, hold on now, we're all back. Why is so-and-so still working remote and I've got to be back and that conflict. And we're forgetting that it's a case-by-case scenario. I have to deal with, as a manager, and as a leader, I'm looking at each person and I'm looking at each situation. And this pandemic, if it hasn't taught us anything, everybody is different. Everybody responds differently. Our families are way, way different. And I think we just took that for granted before all of this happened. We're all the same. We treated everybody in groups prior to this. Now we're all individuals, but we still are wearing our feelings on our sleeve. We're just so upset. And I think that's going to create quite a bit of conflict, actually, because we're going to be so sensitive, because I don't want to be back at work. I want to be at home.
Yeah, and some people haven't had the pleasure of even working from home at all over the past 18 months. Right. So they're angry at people who did get that option. I was speaking to a group a friend of mine up in New York, and she was talking about how some people have been home the whole time and other people haven't. We see that a lot in our public safety, because we'll bring things up to people, and the three of us in our training classes will say stuff like, how is it going from remote back, to the workplace? And a lot of our public safety people have been like, dude, we never stopped. We were always there. So then that creates that sort of thing. So let's talk about workplace conflict as a whole. Got a quick video, and you guys give me a thumbs up as I attempt to share this video from the world famous television show The Office right here on YouTube. Let's take a look and see how Michael Scott handles this conflict between Dwight and Jim.
Transfer.
Everybody, transfer, transfer, transfer.
Okay, you two in the conference room with me. Nobody leaves until we work this out. Cage match.
Cage matches? Yeah, they work. How could they not work? If they didn't work, everybody would still be in the cage. Okay, so Dwight, in your own words, someone replaced all my pens and pencils with crayons. I suspect Jim Halpert. Everyone has called me Dwayne all day. I think Jim Halpert paid them to.
Yes, $5 each, and it was totally worth it.
This morning, I found a bloody glove in my desk drawer, and Jim Halpert tried to convince me I committed murder. I think he may be the real murderer. Jim Halpert said there was an abandoned infant in the woman's room. When I went to save the child, I saw Meredith on the can. Yeah. This morning, I knocked myself in the head with the phone.
That actually took a while. I had to put more and more nickels into his handset until I got used to the weight, and then I just took them all out.
Every time I typed my name, it said diapers.
Just a simple macro. You know, these actually don't sound that funny, one after another. But he does deserve it, though.
By the end of the day, my desk was about 2 feet closer to the copier.
Yeah, I just moved it an inch every time I went to the bathroom. And that's how I spent my entire day that day.
All right.
Right.
All right.
You told Toby that
We may not.
you
So again, Michael's idea of handling conflict in that situation is bringing two people into a room together and having them dialogue it out. He's going through the old employee complaint box. So let's go old school again. When we talk about workplace conflict, Greg, have you ever worked anywhere where people could fill out a complaint on another employee? Does that even happen these days? How do you feel like people share their complaints about other employees?
No, I've never worked in a place where you could fill out a form on another employee. And honestly, I mean, I wouldn't know what to expect, if that was me sitting in the room. But I think there should be some type of rules established when there is a conflict that you have to do something and to resolve whatever the issue is. I think it's important, for that leader to come in and say, hey, if you got an issue with this person, either you call a meeting or you establish the rules or whatever it is to get to the bottom of what's happening so that you can keep the production of that team moving forward.
Yeah, having some type of process in place, I think, is important. My buddy Kim says, Michael Scott, best manager ever. End of day. So that's how she solves everything. All right. So guys, I'm going to throw some of these up here about what causes workplace conflict. And I want you in the chat box, if y'all are watching this live on Facebook Live or LinkedIn Live, what do you think causes a lot of the workplace conflict? Michael, we'll start with this one here, which is resources. That could be a lack of resources. That could mean I don't. How does a lack of resources or something like that cause conflict, do you think?
Well, 18 years of human resources, what you find out when you've got people that are complaining that they don't have resources, a lot of times what the actuality is, you find that the resources have been gathered by a person or by 2 or 3 people, and it makes it a lack for others.
Yep.
And it takes a while for people to find that out. And then when they find out, now we've got a conflict. The war is on, because it's unfair that they have all the resources and I don't have any resources. So,
that's a great point, because we used to have that here, Mike, if you remember. Our supply, simple things like, how come they have these nice pens and we don't? How come you have paper clips and I can't find them? It's stupid stuff like that,
right,
believe it or not, that causes conflict, is about that, which, Greg, leads a little bit to like unperceived or perceived unfairness. So tell me a little bit. I don't want to get too much into discrimination or harassment, but what do you think about conflict and people perceive that there's unfairness?
Yeah, and especially I'll use the example Michael just had where there are resources. Let's say you have someone that hasn't used all of their available resources before they ask for somebody else to get involved to exhaust their resources. So now it's you have the feeling amongst another team that you're being asked to do something, and you're watching that other department sit on the sideline and have capable people who are not fully engaged or fully involved. You're like, hey, well, why are you asking me or coming to me every time to do something when this team has people on the team and they're not fully engaged?
Yeah.
So now, I mean, I still have my workload to do plus theirs. So you have the perception that it's unfair.
And this can be right between employee to employee. This
Right.
can be from department to department. How come our department always volunteers and your department doesn't? How come this employee always works hard? So there's this whole so now there's going to be a conflict happening there. Michael, let's go one more. Creative differences. Like, to me, this can be anything from the strategy or the direction that the department is heading. This could be, I think we should go down the left side of the road. You think we should go down the right side of the road. And then we get into conflict there. How do you see, Michael, creative differences causing conflict?
Well, a lot of times this leads right into manipulation. You find the people who are the leaders or the people. I'm using leaders very lightly here, but the ones who are the type A personalities, they want to be the shining star. They want to do something, so they're manipulating. They're trying to create a way where the spotlight can be on them. So, what are the shortcuts I can take? Hey, how can I do this? How can I manipulate somebody else to fall behind where I can take the shortcut? They're always looking for that edge. They're looking for something to. And it's those managers that step on people to get ahead. That's where those creative differences come in, because I'm trying to figure out how I can cut your Achilles rather than help you climb the ladder is really where it comes down to.
Tamika says unmet expectations. Thanks for watching, Tamika. Appreciate you up in the north watching us. So you guys tackle that one. When you hear that there's unmet expectations, how does that cause conflict, Greg?
It goes to, how do you set that expectation? Because it's going to be frustrating when the leader comes in and they're demanding, or I don't know what the expectation is.
Yeah.
And so now I'm expected to deliver something, and I don't have a clue of what the end result, what the deliverable is.
Yeah.
And now there is some conflict because that leader is expecting me to do one thing, but I've been given the, delegated something and to do it my way, and I don't, and they're not just meeting up. And so you've got that conflict there for a lack of communication, if nothing else.
Right.
And we always tend to go to the manager-employee relationship. This can be a peer-to-peer too. I mean, I think about working at Chick-fil-A. There are expectations among the peers at Chick-fil-A that everyone's going to pull their weight. Everyone's going to do. So if you don't meet certain expectations of how people like things done, that could be it. Taria says workplace bullying and territorial employees can cause a lot of conflict. I love that, Taria. Territorial. Yeah. My area, my cube, my space, my project, my parking place, even though it's not assigned, it's mine. We all know how that goes. Kim, who's watching locally in Birmingham, she says that miscommunication is often at the root, and it can turn into an us versus them. That's what causes conflict. Anybody else who's watching, go ahead and throw some things out there. What do you think causes some of this conflict? Let me throw one more out there to you guys. In this post-COVID or post-pandemic, hopefully, era, what are some things that we as both employees and managers have to look out for? We've talked a little bit about, hybrid versus non-hybrid or remote versus non-remote as far as conflict. What are some other things that we might do? One of the ones I want to throw out there is limited resources is going to cause conflict. I think not being fully staffed. I mean, how many times we were just driving out to where were we going the other day? Shoeytown.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw every single fast food restaurant and business saying things like jobs, open, jobs, hire, jobs. So you kind of put that out there. And then, Michael, that leads to the point you talked about the whole people who've been working here. Well, $300 sign-on bonus, $500 sign-on bonus, $1,000 sign-on bonus. Dude, I've been busting my butt, and you're giving this person been here $1,000. What else do you guys see that's going to cause conflict in this new era, this sort of new culture?
Not being flexible. When you got, hey, it's going to be this way and that's the way it is. And there's no room to allow for any type of adjustment. I think we're going to have some big issues there coming forward. We're not prepared to have a flexible environment when it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, job rotation, working from home, schedule flexibility, pay flexibility. I saw something the other day that said employees are going to start demanding getting paid on the same day. They're tired of waiting 2 weeks, or teachers have to wait a month, that they're going to want, hey, I worked today, I want my money today. I'm like,
that's crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, I know that's our first response, but again, is that something that certain organizations may have to look for? Lakeisha says we got to be transparent. Not being transparent causes conflict. It's a really, really good one there as well. And Tamika also says just being fair. Just being fair. People, this perceived unfairness causes a lot of drama. So what can we do about it? Okay, we can sit here and talk about this all day and talk about all the things, but let's go ahead and do this. Now, take all of this with a grain of salt. We do a full 2 to 3 hour training class on conflict resolution. And we've been using these 5 types of conflict resolution for years. But the reason why we talk about this is we think they work. And a lot of times, if you just stand back and kind of think about these different types, and I think I'm putting the cart before the horse, gentlemen. So let me throw this up first. And I'll ask everybody who's watching, put your thoughts in the comment as well. All right, from a manager perspective, when there's conflict, there's 2 ways to address it. One is, like you saw with Michael Scott. I'm going to bring the 2 employees in. We're going to talk about it. Greg and Michael, you guys start fighting after this. I don't know why that would happen. After this trainer talk, and I overhear it. Is it my job as the supervisor to say, let's all get together. Let me help mediate. Let me be one of these people. Or do I stand back and say, you're big boys. If there's an issue there, work it out. And there's probably pros and cons to both. What are your thoughts on managers getting involved to help smooth out conflict versus managers that just say, listen, I'm not getting involved in this. They're fighting over a parking place. That's not. What are some of the pros and cons to each style?
Well, I'll just tell you that it's great if the manager takes his head out of the sand and listens. You need to be aware of what's going on. You need to have a relationship to what is happening with your employees. You need to know what those conflicts are, or those buttons that are being pushed one to another. And then instead of talking to both of them, pulling both of them into a room, if it doesn't escalate to a true conflict, you can have a conversation with one of them at a time and say, hey, maybe you're a little harsh in this area. So you can talk to them one at a time, which is a little easier. It's not as uncomfortable. But if it gets to a point to where it is becoming a disruption into work, I think that's the time for the leader to step in and say, okay, time out. This is stopping productivity. We've got to work this out, and I've tried to let you handle it. Now it's time for me to step in and let's work through this together. But Greg and I have to work it out for a while. When we can't work it out, the leader steps in.
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah, what do you think, Greg?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think those 2 employees should be professional enough to attempt or make an attempt to resolve those issues first. And if there's not a resolution, then that's where that leader steps in, or manager steps in to say, hey, you guys evidently didn't solve the problem. I've got to step in to, get the details and come up with a possible solution. That has to be the end result to all of it. What's the solution?
And that's what we're always talking about, is the actual solution. Like we have a conflict right now because my wife is calling me to ask me what I want for lunch today. So I have to put something there that says I'm live right now. I cannot, or we can go live and we can all decide if we want Chick-fil-A or McDonald's for lunch. And those people who are working not remotely, you're like, I wish I could have McDonald's for lunch. So, all right. So let's get started on this, you guys. And you guys facilitate this all the time as we go back to the 5 types of conflict resolution. For this one, gentlemen, we're not talking about manager to employee. We're not going to put rank in any of this. We're just saying if there is a problem at work, okay? Michael, there's one good chair at the office. Let's use this. We all work in a cube environment, so let's sort of make this real. And 4 of us have a chair, and let's say our director came up and said, hey, there's one of these big old comfy chairs, and I can't buy them for everybody, but here it is. Y'all rotate it throughout. Okay, so I come in, and I've got it in front of my desk, and then I come in, and Michael has pulled it away. Now he's sitting in it. Mm-hmm. He's pulled my chair away. So now we have a conflict, Michael. Why are you pulling the chair out? I thought it was my day. Competing is I win, you lose. Right. So that would look like this. I'm going to run over. I'm going to grab the chair. I'm going to pull it back. You say, shut up, Michael. My turn. Is there value in that? I mean, I win, you lose. I get my way. You don't get your way. We're going to run the training class this way, whether you like it or not. Hey, this is kind of where the manager or an employee just says my way or the highway. Does it resolve the conflict? Is there value? What are your guys' thoughts on this?
I think there's value to it, but it's pennies to the dollar because there's value in failure. When you're competing, all day long, I can come into this office and say, hey, I've got seniority over everybody. I get first choice of everything. And what's that going to do? That's going to exclude me from anything that happens in the office because nobody wants to hang around that guy, So if I want to put myself on a podium, then I get to be on the podium all by myself and let everybody else do what they want to do. And they will. And I just get to be by myself. So competing will always separate you from the team.
Greg, some people say that this is a good style when it's a safety issue, when it's an emergency issue. Why does this kind of work out for safeties or emergencies?
I think the perception is that the winner is looking out for us versus allowing you to make that mistake and then get hurt to where everybody will be the loser.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, I don't want to watch you fall off the cliff. And I could, and that being there's no more conflict, but we work with public safety all the time. Mm-hmm. I think about them, parking the fire truck somewhere and then someone saying, well, I think we should park it on the west side of the building. And someone going, I think we should park it on the east side of the building. And you know what? We're in this very inclusive society now. So I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Let's talk about it. Why do you think? Well, I think that because the wind is blowing. At some point, someone's just got to say,
make a decision.
Make a decision, and, like Michael says, maybe it hurts feelings. Maybe it does stuff like that. We don't know. But someone may get their feelings hurt because we didn't get to talk about it. But the conflict is over. Right. We're in a park. But again, and Kim brought this up earlier as we were talking earlier. She says a manager could coach an employee on how to approach the conflict rather than just telling them try to handle it. And maybe that happens before the event. Maybe that happens after the event. Maybe that's I know public safety has a lot of post-event, coaching and how did this go? So that's possible. All right, let's go to the next one, which is avoiding. Okay. All right, avoiding. And this is the type of fight that my wife and I have all the time, okay? Where, for the chair event, let's just say something like, I said, well, I'm not going to sit in the chair. And she's like, well, it must be your turn. I'm not going to sit in the chair. And I said, well, I told you could sit in the chair. And she goes, I told you could sit. So neither of us sit in the chair. So we both get so angry and cranky. And so what are some conflict things, gentlemen, that we need to avoid? Because there's value in not getting involved in this conflict. What are some things that we might not want to get involved in? I've got something here. It says if emotions are high, if you have no chance of winning, if the issues are unimportant,
Absolutely. If it's the small things, we hear all the time, pick your battles.
Yeah.
Pick your battles. If it's a small thing that's going to have hurt feelings, but it doesn't affect productivity, let it go. Just avoid it. Let's move on.
Right.
Chances are, at the end of the day, even by lunchtime, you're never going to remember that part anyway.
Yeah. And that's
If
good
that-
advice.
If that conflict is going to do something or tarnish your brand, your personal brand, I think that's something that you've gotta avoid.
I think about this when people spend hours talking about what color ink should go on a flyer. When they talk about, what should we have catered for this business meeting, and maybe if everybody just avoids it, none of us get what we really want to eat at the meeting, and we don't get, but sometimes it's just like, I don't want to go to war with you, like Michael said, over the color of ink, so let's avoid. All right, then you get into accommodating, and this is where we give in. All right, this is where Michael knows it's my day for the chair. He knows it's my day for the chair, but I just go, fine, just take it. Just take the chair, fine. So I'm not avoiding it. I'm solving the conflict by giving him what he wants, and I'm yielding to somebody else. Is there benefits sometimes to just sort of give in and say, listen, you want red. I know that all the data says that red ink means that you're yelling. I know all the data says that all caps means you're yelling. But if that's what you want on the flyer, go. There's got to be some value there, right?
I think that when you look at it, especially if this is a person that you're in conflict with frequently, then making that accommodation can build a bond to where the next event that comes up, you have more success in winning, or both of you winning. And so it just depends on where it is and what you're being accommodating for.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's kind of like building up credits. It's kind of like building up goodwill.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying last time you come out and say, hey, last time I didn't fight you. I mean, but
Right.
They'll sort of know this, especially, I mean, it should be sort of unwritten, and maybe they might come at the next time and say, well, you let me have that one, I'll let you have this one, type of things. We do this in relationships all the time too, gentlemen, not to stereotype, stuff like that, but
accommodation with a conversation. And I'm not saying that we accommodate and going, hey, I did this for you, but having a conversation, you go, I'm really glad we had an opportunity to do this today, or I'm really glad that you had the opportunity to do this, and ease into a conversation. And almost like, I'm glad I was able to gift you this, but not in an arrogant way.
Right.
So you have to be very careful there.
I like that, because you're actually communicating with it and saying, no. Now, again, you got to be careful not to be lying and hypocritical and all that. But again, some of these think about the things that people are fighting about in the workplace. We have much bigger fish to fry. We have strategic goals. We have morale issues. We're trying to recruit and retain the best employees. We're trying to bring people in, and they come in and hear that we're fighting about chairs and ink color and who put what in the microwave to make it smell. And so now I'm going to put a lock on the microwave that only people who have, all this stuff that we do to try to resolve conflict doesn't always work. So some of these 5 things work. Now, compromise is something you hear all the time, and we define that in our training world as I lose some, you lose some, which means no one gets exactly what they want, but there is an ability to kind of get better. So Michael, hey, can you sit in the chair from 8 to 12 today, and I'll sit in the cozy chair from 1 to 5. We both don't get exactly what we want, but there's some type of compromise. Sometimes it's a backup situation, and just to find a mutually accepting thing. Have you all compromised with conflict in the past? I mean, what's your thoughts on this style of conflict resolution?
I think compromising is a good choice. Just don't do it every time. If everybody knows that you're a compromiser, they will take advantage of you. They know that you're going to compromise, and they'll always win. So I win, you lose, because you're a compromiser.
Exactly.
So just be real careful with that. Compromise intelligently, and make sure that you win some too. It's not lose some, but you lose some and you win some when you compromise.
And Greg, that's got to get us to collaboration. Those of you who are live with us, sort of still watching, do me a favor. Let's go back to the chair example. If we're looking for win-win, Okay. There is one cozy chair in an office of 6 people. And our department head has said, you all figure this out. You all decide. Well, someone grabs it, first one in, grabs all that. How do we get to collaboration? Let's get some brainstorming out there in your comment box on LinkedIn Live or Facebook Live. If you can think of anything, because we might have an answer here, but we want to make this kind of interactive. Greg, how do we get to win-win? Not just around who gets the chair, but is it easy to get to win-win? Is it hard? Is it infrequent? Or is it pixie dust?
I think it's easy to get there. You have to have the mutually beneficial solution. How does it benefit everybody? How does it benefit the entire team, not just one individual?
Yeah.
And so is it that we assign weeks, or first person comes in, or we do it by seniority, and everybody knows when their week is to have the chair, whatever it is, as long as it's mutually beneficial for everybody, for the good of the team. I think we can come out with, a win-win.
Yeah. And I want to go back to what you said around personal brand as well. If I'm climbing the corporate ladder, if I want my brand to be people that work well together, if I am going to be working in this place for the next 10 years, I don't need a chorus of 5 or 6 people who hate working with me because I'm the chair idiot, or I'm the ink idiot, or I'm the microwave idiot. So I still need to microwave my cauliflower because it's on my diet. I still would like to be part of this chair process. I would love to kind of figure this out. So again, getting to win-win-win or win-win when we can is big. Absolutely. Kim says, ask them for one thing, get their ideas on how to do it. So it is just the manager starting the win-win to them, or starting the win-win to them. So get there. So that's kind of what you said, Greg. Bring people in. Bring people in, ask their opinions to get to that. So one more question for you gentlemen. I'm going to ask you to be really transparent here. So here are the 5 types of conflict resolution. And Michael said this earlier. Michael said, sometimes we use all of these, but you can't use them all the time. Right. So there's a time when we should be competing because it's a safety issue. There's times when we should be avoiding because it's not important. There's times that we should accommodate because to give that person a win or to build up credits. There's time we should be compromising because it's for the best of the organization. And there's times we truly want to find the win-win. What's your preference? I'll go first. I mean, mine is accommodating. A lot of times I would rather just give up and say, you do it fine. You do it fine. I mean, I don't want you to, but then after a while, I worry that I am being taken advantage of because I don't fight. So, mine is accommodating. Greg, what's your preference?
My preference is collaborating. I want to win-win. I want everybody to win. So where we come out collectively doing the right thing together.
Yep. Okay. Michael, do you have a preference?
I do have a preference. My preference is collaborating, but if I had a tick mark for everything that I do, I tend to accommodate more. I'll give up and allow somebody else to win more than I do. But I would love it to be a win-win every time.
Yeah. And that's what I think we all can work towards that. I think we all can kind of get to that place, which is what we're trying to get to. So this has been a good discussion today. And again, if you're watching us live, we appreciate you being on. If you're watching us on our Merit Matters page, we appreciate you being there. Again, one more plug for the Personnel Board of Jefferson County Facebook page. Please follow us on there. We got some lunchtime learning blasts, which are coming up. We've got trainer talks a couple times a month. And again, hopefully just to get you thinking about different things you can do. I'll put you both on the spot. Closing thoughts on conflict in the workplace, not from a manager point of view, but just from a human being employee point of view. What do we need to know and be aware of as we move forward into this post-pandemic era?
I think we have to have a plan, and evaluate, especially now. I think we're looking at how we're doing everything post-pandemic, and we've got to go back and evaluate, what's working well and what's creating the success. And if we're having issues around conflict resolution, I think we've got to implement a plan. We've got to evaluate what's going well and then make the tweaks to be flexible in what we're doing so that we can resolve the issues that are in the workplace.
Loving it. Have a plan. Michael?
From a conflict standpoint, I say set expectations for yourself. Don't focus on everyone else. Have your own set of expectations, how you're going to be successful. Stop worrying about your peers and what treatment they're going to get. Focus on how you can be successful and draw people into your circle, as opposed to looking for what's not right or what's unfair. Try to bring positivity in. And then I think you'll find that conflict is going to be minimal. If you focus on you rather than focus on others in this environment, conflict will minimize.
Excellent. And my big one is just, everything's not that important. That's something I've got to tell myself a lot. We place a value judgment on everything being the most important decision we make during the day. And if a decision's in conflict with us, everything from the way that I drive to work, to what I bring to lunch, to who's sitting next to me, to what the thermostat is set on, to who gets the good chair, to all. Sometimes I need to stand back and I think we all need to remind ourselves, there's a whole lot going on in the world. And if I'm getting upset at these little knickknack things that kind of come out, it's going to be a long life. Yeah. So I like that. So mine's keep it in perspective. Greg is have a plan. And Michael, yours was
have expectations for yourself.
Yeah, set the expectations for yourself. Mine's also be a better listener. All right. Thanks, gentlemen. We'll do it again with either Kim or Isla. You guys will do it again next month. Thanks to everybody who's watching. Have a fantastic day and go out and minimize conflict. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Good job.
See you all. Good job. Bye-bye.